In this tutorial, I'm going to give you 5 tips for shooting your first real estate video. So the first tip is to shoot your own home, a friend's home, or a vacation rental. This allows you a low-pressure environment to shoot your first video in. You can take as much time as you need, shoot rooms multiple times, and shoot different rooms at different times. You can also shoot the same room in different ways, and don't have to deal with a realtor. You just give yourself so much extra flexibility by doing it this way. And then you can hopefully use that video in your portfolio to get other paying work. The second tip is to shoot in 60 frames per second on a glide cam or a gimbal. I think for the most part, real estate videographers shoot in 24 frames per second, but I found that when you're first starting out, it's really nice to shoot in 60 frames per second so that you can slow the footage down after the fact. One thing that I struggled with in my first shoots was making slow, gradual movements and knowing how long to hold my shot for. If you shoot in slow motion, you can slow down clips after the fact. So if you shoot something too fast, you can slow it down and extend a clip to make it longer. This gave me so much extra flexibility in the beginning. There is a downside to this though, and that is when you're shooting at 60 frames per second, you should be shooting at a shutter speed of 120. A general rule of thumb is to make the shutter speed double what your frame rate is. This can be really difficult in dark rooms, because you're going to have to boost your ISO up really high or take your shutter speed down a little bit more than it's supposed to be just to get a properly exposed image. When I was first starting, I found that it made more sense for me to shoot in 60 frames per second and not have my shutter speed exactly right than to shoot in 24 frames per second. Tip number 3 is to make sure that you shoot a basic punch-in for each room. I would recommend shooting a bunch of different shots in each room so you're seeing how different movements look and have lots of different variations to pick from. But I would just make sure that you have 1 or 2 really solid punch-ins for each room. Think of this as your fallback shot. You're going to be trying a bunch of new and different movements, and if these don't work out the way you intended, at least you'll have that solid shot to include in your video. Or maybe you don't know what shots to try and you're kind of overwhelmed. Just get really good at doing that slow and controlled punch-in. This movement is really simple to do and looks really great in real estate videos. And moving through a doorway just looks really satisfying because you're creating that depth between the doorway and the room. So don't be afraid to do lots of punch-ins and include these in your video because they're really simple, they look great, and it's a really good starting place for a beginner. The 4th tip is to try and make the rooms look as big as possible by using a wide angle lens and by getting as far back in a room as possible. A lens somewhere between 10 and 16 millimeters is sufficient. This also depends on whether you have a full frame camera or a crop sensor. With a crop sensor, you're going to need a wider lens, but if you have a full frame, then you can definitely get away with 16 millimeter. For most of the bedroom shots and for rooms that have doorways, what's going to make the most sense is shooting from the doorway, because this allows you to show the room in the widest possible way. And tip number 5 is to watch other real estate videos and tutorials from other creators. I find that when I'm doing something for the first time, what helps me out a lot is just watching a bunch of different tutorials and videos that other people have made. And this will just give you an idea of what a really good real estate video looks like and how creators are creating those videos. For me, the more videos I watch and the more tutorials I watch, the better my work gets. And those are my 5 tips for shooting your first real estate video. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see future videos, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.